what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Philadelphia Eagles win the regular season rematch of the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs edging Mahomes and company 21-17 in Kansas City. Running back Swift was in the building. He was actually playing pretty well. The other Swift was not in the house. This just in, the Chiefs just dropped another pass. So many drop passes. The Eagles now have the best record in the NFL. They are 9-1, and the Chiefs now fall to 7-3. Trailblazers take on the Phoenix Suns. Oh, Yusuf Nurkic and Nasir Little and the Phoenix Suns tonight. Tip-off is at 6. Pre-game coverage begins at 3:30. Coming up, friend of the program and the television analyst. I watched some Rip City Remix last night with our friend Pounce on his TV broadcast, but basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, Devon Pouncey, friend of the program, joins us in hour 3. But hour number 1 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Tuesday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is safely partitioned on the other side of the plastics, getting up early or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Tuesday. Is this true? Is this not fake news? What you just threw in the update? So, by the way, thanks for listening via the radio. If you want to stream, we are live on YouTube. Subscribe to the Rip City Radio YouTube page, and you can see the way the show dynamic works. But if you are not on YouTube, if you are maybe a little busy, maybe you're driving, shouldn't be YouTubing and driving, let me just give you a little bit behind the scenes. I am a terrible writer. Terrible. It's not my forte. It's probably why I became a broadcaster, because I don't want to write for a living. I sit down. The idea of having to write anything on a screen for any bit of substance other than a quick email, yep, got it, see you tomorrow, whatever. I'm terrible writer. So with that, I have a super talented writer right there in my producer room. So I'm like, well, let's just use our strengths, right? So Brendan writes the updates every day. Now, when the updates sound terrible, it's because I have gone rogue. All right? I'm serious. If the updates, when they are bad, it is because I have decided to go off script. I'm going to do a little scatting and a little improvising. Sometimes I'll land that plane. A lot of times I don't. But for the most part, Brendan is in charge of writing the updates. And, you know, we're up pretty early. We try to stay up to date on the world of sports. And usually we got the update written, what? What would you say, Brendan? 20 minutes before the show? 25 minutes before the show? Start with the template from last night, but then about 20 minutes before the show.
I usually write it the night before if I can. So it depends on how.
And if anything has broken overnight,
exactly,
we'll add it in. So I'm reading the update, and we have a shared document. Again, I don't know how it works, but where he can add to it in real time, and I'm sitting there and I'm reading the update. We got the Monday Night Football score. We got the Blazers tonight, and all of a sudden he says the Steelers have, and I'm like, don't tell me it really happened. They did it. Steelers, an organization that never fires coaches in the middle of the season, have finally had enough. Maybe the fact that in 10 games, even though they're sitting at 6-4, with a franchise, not a franchise quarterback yet, but a guy they believe can be the franchise quarterback with weapons, with two pretty good running backs, have been outgained offensively in 10 consecutive games. Even though they are 6-4, they've just finally decided to replace Matt Canada. Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has been relieved of his duties. This is from Mike Tomlin. He says, I appreciate Matt's hard work and dedication. I wish him the best moving forward in his career. I said yesterday, I am not a guy that is very comfortable calling for people's jobs. It's just not my favorite thing to do. Realize it's It's a reality in the sports world, though. And I also am a guy that believes that the easy excuse, if maybe your quarterback isn't playing so well, because nobody wants to turn their back on the quarterback in the NFL. Quarterback is like if you like that particular quarterback, not like Zach Wilson and the Jets, whom they hate, and now he's not starting anymore either. Did you see Zach Wilson got replaced? Kind of had to at this point, right? Can't run that guy out anymore.
We'll be discussing it in Make or Miss.
We got a lot of NFL stuff to talk about today. Yesterday was a ton of college football, and obviously with Oregon State and Washington in that game, and Oregon and Oregon State getting ready for potentially the final Civil War, definitely the final Civil War as conference foes and everything else. So we did a lot of college football yesterday. We're going to do a lot of NFL today. But usually, if you like your quarterback or you want to like your quarterback and things aren't first thing you do, coordinator's got to go. How many coordinators do they run through in Dallas? Because they like Dak Prescott. They want to like Dak Prescott. They don't want to turn their back on him quite yet. They also, when you pay a guy, you're like, well, we got to do it. Fire the coordinator. Boom. That'll do it. New coordinator comes in. They did this in Seattle with Russell so many times because everybody in Seattle loved Russell. Nobody wanted to turn their. Why isn't the offense working? I don't know. Maybe because Russell kept going rogue. Fire Darrell Bevell. It was his. Never mind that Pete Carroll said probably 100 times throwing the ball in the Super Bowl was my call. Pete Carroll said that probably 100 times. Did anybody in Seattle believe him? Nope. It was Darrell Bevell's fault. I know that because I was up there, and it was just nobody. It was like that was done, and it was like Russ wasn't cooking. He wasn't winning an MVP. He wasn't on the same level at that particular time as Aaron Rodgers and company. Patrick Mahomes hadn't started taking over the NFL yet, and so it's like fire the coordinator because you don't want to turn your back on the quarterback. We saw it in Dallas. We saw it in they are the Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles Chargers, Justin. Saw it in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Justin Herbert, right? I love Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert throws a beautiful ball. It'd be nice if his receivers would catch potential game winners. You know what I mean? Might dig themselves out of a hole. But fire the coordinator. This is the first step. Then if it doesn't work, we'll start looking like you did in Seattle with Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson. Do we got to change one of these guys? Because we really don't want to. But it has happened finally in Pittsburgh. Now, the offense, by the way, Brendan, it's not going to get better.
Sometimes a change of scenery is all you need, Justin. I was curious where Darrell Bevell actually landed all these years later. And he's pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Dolphins. They're pretty good this year, Justin. I mean, does that mean he's a terrible coordinator or just didn't work at that time? And like Justin said, you need in the words of Michael Scott, an scapegoat. And it seems like, and that goes to college too, right? Lincoln Riley's failed season. He waited as long as he could. Who did he make his scapegoat this year, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Alex
Grinch.
So 100% agree with you there.
I mean, sometimes it's the right move to make, right? Last year, it was clear Oregon State needed to fire their defensive coordinator, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Sorry.
No, time's flying, right?
Man. Woo, it really is. We've been doing this show that long?
Yeah.
2 years ago, they needed to fire their offensive coordinator. And they made the move with, a month left in the season. That move led to a couple of nice wins. They end up making a bowl game because of it. That bowl game enabled them to continue to practice, helped in recruiting, and then they would have a 10-win season the next year. The defense and the offensive line being a big primary part of that. And now they're on the verge they're in the middle of another good season. Now, it's not the season that Oregon State fans wanted, and I understand that because it's the, that expectations monster, right? What is it? It was Saving Private Ryan, where he's like, gripes go up, gripes don't go down. Success in college football for fans, like, all right, well, we're here now. We've won 10 games. We're definitely don't win 10 games anymore. Like, we have left that 8-win season behind. That was a cute time and all, but we're done with that now. We're a 10-win team now. We're in the 10-win club. Where's our jacket? right? Don't we get a jacket and maybe like, a special card? It's like, yeah, there's ebbs and flows to this whole thing. But sometimes it works. Sometimes you can fire a coordinator and it's just like, yeah, he wasn't figuring it out. He wasn't getting it. And by the way, with the Steelers, not that anybody truly cares, I'm not going to go deep into the Steelers. Matt Canada wasn't working as an offensive coordinator when Ben Roethlisberger was his quarterback. Now, say what you will about Ben Roethlisberger, and he's got some stuff. If you Google it, it's not all pretty. But as a football player, guy's got a couple Super Bowl rings. Guy's got a couple of Pro Bowl appearances, and he will likely be a Hall of Famer.
Let me ask you this, Justin, because I remember very specifically when the Steeler fans were calling for Todd Haley's head, said he was not a good offensive coordinator. Turns out Todd Haley was a lot better than Matt Canada, huh?
100% better. Now, the problem was Todd Haley and Big Ben just couldn't get along. Now
is no longer a concern.
Nope, not anymore. Maybe bring him back. I don't know what old Todd Haley's doing.
Hey, he's got a good rapport with Tomlin. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but there's so many facets into why it's not working, right? Sometimes you're just not very good at play calling, right? We've talked about this before with an NFL head coach. There are maybe, if you include retired coaches and you include potential 50 people on the planet that are capable of being successful NFL coaches. There are maybe 50 people on what's that, 8 billion people on the planet, I think? I think we Google this every time. I think I finally dialed it in. I think it's around 8 billion.
8.
Boom. There's about 8 billion people on the planet. There's like 50 guys that are capable of being successful NFL coaches, right? Bump it up to 100 if you want, but same can be said. Successful play caller, right? Because you can be a coordinator you could be Darrell Bevell and be a coordinator for the Dolphins. Guess what? You ain't calling the plays. That's the nerd. That four-eyed nerd on the sideline.
And we say that with love. I say that. Always I say it with love.
I want a four-eyed nerd calling the Steelers plays so bad. So bad. Give me the nerdiest coach of all time.
Just go to the Shanahan tree, man. You'll find one. You'll find one.
Find some nerdy guy that just does nothing but gets in his computer, just dial up this play here, and what about this X receiver? And that's what they got in Miami, right? And because play calling it's both a science and it's an art. You have to have obviously the nuts and bolts of it, of linebacker goes here, tight end goes there, all that stuff. But then you also have to have a flow to it, because there are human beings, and it's this play, when I run this, the X receiver is covered. Except when that X receiver is Tyreek Hill, he's not covered. Sorry about
Never
it.
Covered.
They could play the best defense they could ever play. He's not covered. And that's why I don't know if you watched Monday Night Football last night. Watching Monday Night Football, Travis Kelce just dropped 2 or 3 passes last night, which is very uncharacteristic for him.
Well, Taylor wasn't there.
Where's she
could
at?
be a part of it.
Where's she at?
Probably Tori.
I think she might be in South America on tour, and I don't know why they thought that she was just going to hop on a flight for Monday Night Football in Kansas City to meet the potential future in-laws. Either way, I hope it's...
You're in Rio. She's in Rio.
Because she was in Buenos Aires, and she's on, the international part of her tour. Do I know Taylor's tour? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, she spends Thanksgiving in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So she ain't coming back this week either, Mr. Kelce.
Brazil's a fantastic place.
I would love to go. Would love to visit.
I'm going to go check out Rio. I think that'd be my kind of town.
But
I don't know.
Justin,
might be too intense for me, though.
But here's the key, though, Justin. After Brazil, she's got 2 months off before the tour continues.
There we go. And you know what?
Around Super Bowl time. So I think she'll have some time to catch some playoff games, if you know what I'm saying.
I mean, it's so easy to just be like, Taylor Swift wasn't there, so Travis Kelce's dropping passes. And it's funny. But, there's the human part of play calling, which is, all right, we need to get Kelce the ball here. Is he covered? Doesn't matter. He's going to come down with it. There's those. And I think George Pickens can be one of those guys in the Steelers. Dude, we just got to get him the ball and get him involved in the game. Like you find, like, hey, weird. Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs wasn't getting the ball. You were losing. They play the Jets. Guess what? Stephon Diggs got the ball a lot. Let's maybe throw him the ball. All right. So Matt Canada got fired.
Justin's thrilled in case you can't notice, folks.
No, it's nervousness because you want to know the reality of it all. Because nobody wants to admit this, but I will throw it out there. If the next guy comes in and it doesn't work, then guess what? It might be Kenny's fault. And by the way, there are some Charger fans and some Duck fans who are like, you fire your coordinator. You fire who was it? Anthony Lynn. He was the head coach before.
Yes.
So you fired Anthony Lynn, fired a coordinator. Brandon Staley's yelling at reporters. He's obviously feeling the heat. Keep firing all these guys. Maybe it's something else. Now, again, I don't think it's Herbert. I think it's maybe his receivers keep dropping the football. But that's where it gets nervous Nelly times. You keep firing everybody, and then you end up like Will Smith in the house looking around going like, all right. Oh, it's us. Got it. But Monday Night Football, last night, man, the Eagles are still a wagon. Finding ways to win. They go into Kansas City. They have one loss on the season. But there may be in our famed, even though we forgot to do it last week, Rip City Mornings NFL tier system. I think I'm ready to elevate one particular team up to the Super Bowl tier that hasn't been there so far this year. Who is it? Talk about it next. 620 Rip City Radio. in the NFL right now. And even though Kansas City took the loss, this is why you got to love the NFL, right? I love college football for all of its college football reasons. I want Saturday football different from Sunday football. I say that all the time. I love college football for a lot of things. I love the NFL because it truly comes down to one play. You saw with Oregon State and Washington, right? You face off in those games. You can't make mistakes. You can't make mistakes. And that's the beauty of those elevated games in college football, right? They are few and far between, which adds tension, which adds buzz, which makes you have to watch it because it's a rarity where you have to play perfect football. And if you don't, then you take a loss and all of your hopes and dreams go away. That's built-in drama. NFL, that's every week. Every week, yeah. Every once in a while, there's some blowouts, and every once in a while, there are some cruise control victories. But even the bad teams in the league are going to make you work for it. The Steelers just fired their offensive coordinator, and the Browns still had to kick a game-winning field goal at the end of that to win by 3. And you go back to last night's game, and the narrative is super easy, right? Is this finally the Super Bowl hangover for the Chiefs? Is this finally the Chiefs hitting the brick wall? Is Travis Kelce distracted because of all the superstar Taylor Swift stuff? All that stuff. It was 2 drop passes. 2. One was surefire touchdown, ball game's over, and completely different narrative. And I work and live in a world of narratives. This is not me being snooty about it. It is the reality of the NFL, but it's why it's so fascinating is that it does, we all had, well, not all of us, most of us who played high school football. And no, I'm not going to do a whole Justin Glory Days thing, but we all sat in those meetings where the coach said, one play after a loss. It's not just one play. I was like, sometimes, coach, it is. He did it. It's not me. It's that guy. But one play doesn't win or lose a game. It takes all of us. We've all heard that speech. In the NFL, one guy doesn't do his job, that costs you a game. One guy. And the Chiefs yesterday dropped a handful of passes, and the Eagles were executing exactly what they want to do. Shorten up the game, keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Oh, weird. We have 1 yard, guaranteed to get it every single time. Real quick, before we do our tiers, it is amazing that Philadelphia tush-push thing. It's amazing. Do not regulate it. Do not take it out of the game. It is amazing because every other team tries to do it, and they can't do it. It's because you don't have Jason Kelce. You don't have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. You don't have Nick Sirianni, who figured out the way to design it. I've seen so many. They're showing it right now. Showing it right now on ESPN. I've seen so many teams try to do it, and guess what? It works at about a 50% clip. Hey, you run a quarterback sneak and have a guy put. Philadelphia runs it at a 94% successful rate. This is not cheating. This is not again, so easy, then everybody do it. Everybody do it then, and nobody else can do it. It can work every once in a while, but not like Philadelphia does it. It's amazing. And I kind of like it. All right, tier system. Here we go. Brendan has the challenge flag. It's a figurative challenge flag, not a literal challenge flag. We may find you a red challenge flag, though.
I do wish we had one. That'd be kind of cool if I could throw it against the glass. Right? I can't throw it at you.
What was it? Remember Bill Belichick this year when he was just like, challenge? Like, get you a red challenge flag.
Well, and now, Justin, I forget what insurance company it is, but the one that does the flag on the play and the couple goes back and says, well, you said you did this. You said you did this. I got to say that part working its way into regular culture is pretty funny.
You don't live this life because you're a single successful guy. I am married indoor cat. So I know that you're becoming your parents as the commercial is the one that goes, boy, those are funny because they're kind of the couple. Let's go to the replay challenge. That's a real thing.
Oh, I bet. I'll defer, but I bet.
Hey, I think we should go and hang out with so-and-so this weekend. we're doing this weekend. I told you about it. No, you didn't. Yeah, 3 times. Nah, I don't think you did. It's on my phone. It's on the calendar. It doesn't go on the calendar if I don't tell you about. Yeah. Kelly could throw the challenge flag on me so much.
100%.
This upcoming weekend, obviously going to Civil War, I was like, all right, so dog's going to X. No, dog's not going there. The dog's going here. I told you about that. And I'm like, I don't know if you did. Yeah, I did. I forgot where the dog was going this weekend.
It's a busy week, Justin.
I know.
There's a lot condensed.
There's a lot going on. There's a focus on a football game as well. Also, I got to make a turkey on Thursday.
Wait, Thursday or when? I thought you said the preparations already started.
Preparations have started, have begun.
Yeah.
We'll start Wednesday night, but I have to cook the bird on Thursday.
And you guys go elsewhere. You don't host, right? Or do you
have hosted? We're on a rotating scale.
Got you.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes it's neutral sites.
Yeah. Hey, it makes a difference. Like if you're cooking in your house, somebody else's house, cooking and taking, like it's a big part of the Thanksgiving mix. But anywho, back to
going to the in-laws. I'm very comfortable with the equipment that I'm going to be cooking this bird on. So neither here nor there. We may talk about that more tomorrow. Let's get into the tiers. All right. These are top tiers. These are teams that I believe can win the Super Bowl. Super Bowl tier. Philadelphia Eagles might be the best team in all of the NFL. Kansas City Chiefs can clearly still win the Super Bowl. Miami Dolphins can win the Super Bowl. 49ers, they're back. By the way, what a different world Brock Purdy is in when Trent Williams is there going like, yeah, hey, your blind side, nobody's getting by me. I'm the best in the game, and nobody's going to get by me. And now that I'm back, and you're not getting knocked into next week every other play, Brock Purdy's playing with a little bit more confidence right now. 49ers can win the Super Bowl. I believe the Baltimore Ravens can win the Super Bowl. They're 8-3. Lamar's playing great. I believe the Baltimore Ravens. Also, they're in a division now where Cleveland just signed Joe Flacco. Okay, that happened. Cleveland just signed Joe Flacco. Bengals. Joe Burrow's done for the year, right? Joe Burrow's done for the year. And the Steelers just fired their offensive coordinator. Things are not going. Now, what's nuts, though, you know how many teams in the AFC North have a losing record? That's a big fat goose egg. They all have a winning record, but yet they're all, except for the Ravens, fatally flawed. But I believe the Baltimore Ravens can win the Super Bowl. This is where we are now adding a team. I'm ready to announce, not that anybody cares, but I am ready to announce, as crazy as it sounds, Brendan, I believe the Detroit Lions can win the Super Bowl. I believe that Motor City Dan Campbell, and by the way, there's a lot of receipts being cashed in of hot takes from Dan Campbell's opening press conference. There's a lot of hot takes, a lot of receipts. Lions are legit. They are 8-2. Now, did they have to come from behind to beat the Bears? Yeah, they did. But they are 8-2. They've got, here's the schedule for the Lions for the foreseeable future. You got to get, now I know Packers just won. They wouldn't have won if Justin Herbert's receivers can catch the football, but that's neither here nor there. We may play the Justin Herbert blame game coming up in a little bit, too, because Oregon fans who are now adopted Justin Herbert fans are blaming everybody. But they got the Packers, and they get the Packers at home. It's also Thanksgiving game. I like the Lions in that game, Thursday morning. So you get the Packers on Thanksgiving. Then they go to the Saints. Then they go to the Bears again. Then they get the Broncos. Broncos have won 4 in a row, but the Broncos are at home. Then they go to the Vikings. Josh Dobbs is good, but who knows if maybe the Magic is. I think the Lions, now I'm not saying they're going to go unscathed the rest of the way. Brendan, they have to go to the Cowboys on December the 30th. They may have the division wrapped up by then. They may have the number 2 seed wrapped up by then. Who knows in that Week 16 matchup? But other than the game at the Cowboys, is there a game where the Lions aren't going to be favored the rest of the way? Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. At the Cowboys probably won't be favored.
Yeah, you won't be favored in that game.
But every other game.
Yeah, not unless the Cowboys collapse. I mean, they've and not to mention, Justin, you mentioned how the Cowboys have played, hippity hop with their offensive coordinator. They've looked like it might be the right decision for how well Dak Prescott has played these last couple weeks. Basically, since they lost to the Eagles, Justin, they've gone on a nice little tear and have played really good football.
Helps when you get the Giants and the Panthers.
It does. It does.
But it's like I just said at the beginning, though, it's the NFL, right? These are grown men. These are professionals. Everybody gets a salary cap, right? Everybody's getting paid. You win a game in the NFL, don't apologize for it.
I mean, going back to, I agree with your teams that you think can. How do you feel about some teams that are kind of in middling land, like
let's do it?
The Texans, who have suddenly become like America's sexy team with C.J. Stroud, or the Buffalo Bills, who ho-hum are 6-5 but still have Josh Allen, or like we said, Cincinnati Bengals are cooked. I don't expect the Denver Broncos to go on a run, but Justin, they could. They could, right?
They have a quarterback that has won a Super Bowl and has played in 2 Super Bowls, right?
And
it's
a
the
coach
same thing
that's won one.
Same thing with like Jared Goff, right? It's like everybody wrote off Jared. It's like that guy played in a Super Bowl. Like I know that he didn't play well in said Super Bowl, but he played in a Super Bowl, won the division a handful of times before they decided they needed to run him out of Los Angeles. All right, let's get into the second tier. So these are contenders. These are teams that I believe are going to make the playoffs. I don't believe they are going to. All right. In all honesty, let's have an honest conversation right now. Because I complain to Brendan privately, but I'll just open it up. I'll open myself up. I complain to Brendan privately about lazy college football takes. That drives me nuts. Lazy college football takes. Am I being lazy by essentially putting past performances from years before on the Dallas Cowboys? Am I being lazy? Because like you said, the Cowboys are good. The Cowboys are 7-3, but I do the uniforms are magic thing, right? Well, it's the Cowboys, and they're going to blow it in the playoffs. It was like Tony Romo, 11 years ago. He dropped the ball with, remember the game against the Seahawks, and he dropped the ball, it was forever ago.
Yeah, in the words of Dan Lanning, which I really hate to quote my rival this week.
Especially this week. Wow.
I know. The words of Dan Lanning. I can't really remember any time they've won anything, Justin, because it's true. The Dallas Cowboys have been completely irrelevant in my lifetime, with the exception of one couple years in there where they go 13-3 in the regular season, only get bounced in round 1.
But I could say the same thing about the Cincinnati Bengals. But
they're not a historically great franchise like the Cowboys, Justin.
Well, are the Cowboys?
We put the Cowboys up there as America's team, Justin.
Well, that's a marketing ploy.
I'm just saying
they won some games they won some Super Bowls in the 90s, and it was a glorious time. But since then, like you said, they've been kind of an irrelevant franchise. Not irrelevant, but
what have they won? To quote Dan Lanning,
that's what I'm saying. Am I putting too because I have seen so many years of the Cowboys. Just, that video of that sad Cowboy fan, right, with his girlfriend, or wife, who knows, maybe they're committed, rubbing his back and just I've always said that's got to be the worst. The worst sports feeling in the world is super fan walking back to the car after a loss. Super fan with the wig and the face paint and everything. Super fan going to the game, probably not a better feeling in the world. Everybody slapping your loss, walking back to the car. That's got to be one of the worst feelings in the world. Got to be one of the worst. All right. You mentioned the Texans. Now, I don't.
Let's talk some D'Amico Ryans.
They are contenders, I believe. I believe they can make the playoffs, right? Somebody in the AFC has to make the playoffs. Brendan, 7 teams from the AFC, Dolphins, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, right? There's 4 that I believe are, I don't guarantee, but I think pretty safe bet those 4 teams are making the playoffs. You got to find 3 other teams.
Is D'Amico Ryan's Coach of the Year, Justin? I know Justin and I talk about that award and go, well, it's the hey, you were supposed to suck award.
Sorry, we thought you were going to suck, but you're better.
But the Texans were supposed to maybe be the worst team in football. They gambled, right? Drafted what? Number 2 and number 3 with Stroud and Will Anderson this last year.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, there's this new head coach from San Francisco. He doesn't know what he's doing.
But the culture's bad, remember?
I'm just saying,
CJ Stroud,
he might be Coach of the Year. He could be.
CJ Stroud he can't pass tests, right? And they leaked his test information. It's like, it turns out that guy can play football. I don't get much right with the NFL draft. My misses are legendarily bad. I crushed that one. I crushed that one. I'm going like, I don't see it with Bryce Young. I see it with C.J. Stroud, though. Like, that guy's ball player. They could definitely make the playoffs. Everybody in the AFC North can make the playoffs. Everybody in the AFC North, except for the Ravens, could completely fall apart the second half of the season. It's inevitability. I think we're ready to say that the Jets are not. They're pretenders. They were hanging around for a while, but I don't see them. Even if they do the whole Aaron Rodgers comes back mid-December, which is, again, another number that's been thrown out, I don't think the Jets are a playoff contending team. Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos are a fascinating team. Because they have now won 4 in a row. They were written off. It was done. The biggest Broncos superfan that I know, Chad Doing, was like, I'm done. Done with this team. They had just lost to the Chiefs for, I think, the 17th time? This was before they ultimately got that burden off their back. But they were 1-5, and their only one win was a miracle comeback against the Bears. Remember the Bears' ultimate collapse? They were 1-5, got a 70 burger put on them by the Dolphins. And I was like, all right, pull the plug on this. They're trading away their good players. And out of nowhere, they sneak out a 2-point win against the Packers. They beat the Chiefs handily. Get a win against the Bills. Get a win against the Vikings, right? And again, I don't care if they're close victories. It's the NFL. You win 4 in a row, you're doing something right. Russell Wilson's now gaining more and more confidence. Can the Broncos make the playoffs? Again, I go back to what I said. 7 teams have to make it.
I think they can.
They don't
Justin.
go 1 year going like, hey, we're going to give your other wild card spot to the NFC. Because, like, somebody has to make that last spot.
I mentioned to you
Might
yesterday.
be the Denver Broncos. I still think the Chargers have a run in them.
I agree. I mentioned to you yesterday, just as far as like American sports culture, Justin, how much would we love Russell Wilson and the Broncos to make a run now?
Well,
rank me that storyline.
You gotta understand, I live with a Seahawk fan. All right, Seahawk fans not
and
ready.
a Husky. By the way.
Yeah, but more for the Russell Wilson thing. Seahawk fans, let me just tell you, not ready for the Russell redemption story. They're still basking in the breakup. Speaking of, I don't know what to make of the Seahawks either. I don't know what to make of the Seahawks either. Actually, I do. I know exactly what to make of the Seahawks. They're going to play okay. They're going to get about 9 wins this season, and they're going to make the first round of the playoffs, and they're going to lose. That's what's going to happen. But still, it's going to be a masterful coaching job, and at some point, they're going to have to address the fact that, I don't know, maybe you need to find a franchise quarterback. Not a good quarterback, not a franchise quarterback. Anyways, coming up next, wrapping up hour number 1, we go on campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. My whole week is thrown off, by the way. And not necessarily in a bad way, but during this time of year, especially when you do the job that Brendan and I do, your calendar is designed by football, right? Monday, we come in, we talk college football. Tuesday, we come in, we talk NFL. We did that. And then the rankings come out. But it's a game week kind of has its own bit of rhythm. Well, we got Thanksgiving on Thursday, got Civil War on Friday, and Tuesday, which obviously has no feel, really has no feel today. I've been so confused. Like, oh, yeah, college football rankings are coming out tonight. I was like, that's right. It is actually Tuesday, even though it feels a little bit further along with the short work week and with the short football week. Throwing me off is it circadian rhythms? Is that what they're called? I don't know. I might have made that up. But I think it's something like that, where like the natural rhythms inside your body.
You said, say it again?
Circadian rhythms? Circadian.
Close. Starts with a C, but yes, you're right onto it. Circadian.
I was so close.
Yes, you were. So I said I'm going to give you a 7, 8 out of 10 on that one, Justin. You passed.
Thank you. All right. But college football playoff rankings are coming out. I've said before, I would like to know the parameters that the playoff committee is thinking about when making these rankings. But we are going to predict our own, and we're going to give our own Rip City Morning college football rankings. These are clearly unofficial. But now heading into the final week of the college football season. Who needs help? Who controls their own destiny? What's going to happen when the committee unveils ultimately the top 8, which is kind of all that matter at this particular point. Sorry, Louisville. So, with that being said, let's go on campus. All right. I think number 1's easy in terms of rankings. Georgia has given, other than a game against Missouri, who's not too bad, and their clunker of a game, they managed to win by 7 against Auburn. That was their clunk. They've had one clunker so far. Now, their schedule has been obviously much talked about, the fact that they don't really have an awful lot of tests on that schedule, but Georgia has given no reason to not be ranked number 1 in the country. Because every other team, even the undefeateds, there's a game where you go like, what was going on that day? Ohio State? What was going on against Notre Dame? It was right down to the wire. You fall half a yard short. If Notre Dame puts 11 guys on the field, we might not be talking about Ohio State today. Michigan against Maryland. What was going on there? And then obviously Washington, probably mostly against Stanford, but also Arizona State, where I do not believe they scored an offensive touchdown in that game. Florida State's got a backup quarterback, and then Oregon and Texas and Alabama, they all have one loss. So with all that being said, let's rank them. I think Georgia is the number 1 team in the country. I would put them at number 1. I think Ohio State, even though Michigan is favored in the game, I would put Ohio State as number 2 in the country because they do have that actual win against Notre Dame. I believe Washington's the 3rd best team in the country. I think if you look at what Washington has done this year, and they just went into any other team, because the West Coast gets poo-pooed upon, and I do believe there is a bit of, hey, the Oregon State, Washington State thing is so sad, let's not talk about it. I do think there is an element to that. Not to get all conspiracy theory, but if any other team went on the road and won against the number 11 team in the country and is undefeated, I mean, that's a better win than Georgia has on their schedule. That, by the numbers, it's a better win than Ohio State has because Oregon State is 15th in the AP poll and Notre Dame is 17th. I'm going to go Georgia, Ohio State, Washington, Michigan, Florida State, Then I got Oregon 6, Texas 7, Alabama 8. Brendan, quickly, any challenges to that top 8?
No, I don't think so. I'm kind of with you. I think that Washington, after beating Oregon State, they have to be in the top 4. Just for
100%.
For
and not because of an injury to Florida State, but because Florida State played South Alabama.
Well, and is Oregon State still not a top 10 win? At the time it was. So that's still something you have to credit. And then the fact that Washington will all likelihood. My biggest thing with this, Justin, is ironically, Washington needs to root for Oregon this weekend to further their chances, because I'm sorry, I see a world, Justin, where if Oregon State pulls some, Houdini stuff in Corvallis, and then Washington plays Arizona in the Pac-12 championship, committee would kick them out, even being undefeated, in my opinion, because that would be a win over what?
I don't think so, though.
Maybe not confidently.
Because remember, Ohio State and Michigan, somebody's losing that game.
I think it's possible they could.
You think they would leave? There's no way a one-loss Ohio State or a one-loss Michigan stays ahead of undefeated.
One-loss Bama?
I don't think any of those teams.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just said think about the possibility.
If Bama beats Georgia by 3, I could see. You're right. I could see them keep an undefeated Washington out. I don't think they would.
Maybe not. But I'm just like, I see, like, if Washington plays Arizona, they'll go, well, they didn't even play Oregon in their conference championship game. I don't know.
I think Washington controls their own destiny, personally. I think Oregon needs a little bit of help. That help is going to come in the form of Georgia and Ohio State. Need both of those teams to win out as well. I think Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon all win out. I think Oregon gets in. All right. Coming up, we've got, what are we doing? Big 3? What are we going to see tonight from Nurkic? I got the Big 3. We got to make or miss. It is Tuesday. You'll all get off my lawn as well. 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Philadelphia Eagles win the regular season rematch of the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, edging Mahomes and company 21-17 on the road in Kansas City. Eagles now have the best record in the NFL. They sit at 9-1. Chiefs fall to 7-3. Trailblazers take on the Phoenix Suns tonight in the Valley of the Sun. Tip-off is set for 6 o'clock. Pregame coverage begins at 3:30 right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have made a very rare in-season coaching move as Matt Canada has been relieved of his offensive coordinator duties. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. Never get that email? Never fun. Coming up in hour number 3, Devon Pouncey, friend of the program, and the basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix is going to be joining us for the third hour. But the big 3 in hour number 2 starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, 20 minutes from now, we have got Make or Miss. 40 minutes from now, it is Tuesday. It's a holiday Tuesday, so it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, Brendan, for me to find something to be grumpy about. I shall. Don't worry about it. I'll find something to be grumpy about. But it's hard right now because, you know, it's Tuesday. It's a short week. It's my favorite week of the year. I love Thanksgiving. I love this rivalry game that's going to be happening on Friday. I'm sad to see it go away. Got a lot of fun stuff, a lot of family and friends to see throughout the weekend. It is going to be very difficult to find something to be grumpy about. But I am a man of the people, and they're counting on me, right? And I'm going to come through. They are 100% counting on me. Also, the Blazers, as we mentioned, in action tonight. Malcolm Brogdon listed as questionable. All right, so help me out here because I have a football brain, right? My brain revolves around football. So when the injury report comes out, usually if you see somebody listed at out, they're out, right? Doubtful means might give it. Questionable usually means like they're going to play, right? Daniel LaRusso is going to fight. Like they're going to play. If anybody's listed as questionable, that is like sore shoulder, questionable or probable, they're going to play. Basketball, doesn't questionable usually mean like we'll give it a go during warm-ups and we'll see how we feel in pregame shoot-around? Because I felt like, especially last year, now some of this was because the Blazers were clearly tanking at the end of the year. A lot of guys went from questionable to out real fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, questionable usually means game time decision of sorts. I mean, but then again, Justin, there's many different layers of questionable these days.
So many. I mean, talk about a relative term, questionable.
Yeah, there's the questionable that's like, hey, you have a knee sprain, which really means you, like, messed up your knee and ligaments are maybe torn, but you could be questionable. So, and then at college level, Justin, I mean, like, completely different. So at least with the NBA and NFL, you know I like it because you get injury reports. They're mostly accurate. Questionable off of a hamstring. He's probably not going to play tonight.
You think so?
If I were to guess.
He's been out 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. You know, hamstrings are tough, right? You're a workout guy, Justin. You know about the hamstrings.
I've been very lucky. I have, by the way, my ankle's good. I'm probable. Ankle's still good.
You're probable to go to
game
Autzen
at
Stadium
Autzen
again.
this weekend. I shall conquer those stairs that took me down a couple of weeks ago against Cal.
I shouldn't, when I'm walking down from the press box down to field level, I shouldn't have a phone in my hands, is what you're saying?
You can have a phone in your hand. Maybe don't watch a video on your phone as you're walking down the stairs. And
hey, those Autzen stairs, man, I got to be careful.
Here's the other thing. You are a professional media member. I don't think you're going to be in the altered state that I was in as a doofusy fan that day. I wasn't like, you know, your guy at Reeser Stadium who just decided that the bathroom doesn't apply to me. And I wonder
what's going to happen there, Justin.
Have we found out who that guy is?
I need to check
That's an amazing video.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check in with, well, it's kind of one of those, you know that old saying, don't ask the questions you don't want the answer to, Justin? I think that applies here. But I'll have to check in with my my sources and see if they are looking for that person, or if it's like nothing to see here, nothing to see here, nothing to see here kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
I've seen some things at some stadiums in my day.
I've seen some stuff.
I have seen some stuff, right? I don't want to get too gross on a Tuesday morning, but you know what? We got to talk about this because we were talking about the football game, but and if you don't know what we're talking about, at Reser Stadium, and apparently, and I didn't know this, maybe you can find out on your message boards, but it sounds like they made a brand new stadium and did not do really well with the bathrooms for the fans. I don't know. I haven't been there. You say the press box bathrooms, top notch.
Yeah, it's clutch. it's looking good, man. Like I said, it's spacious, it's clean, But
it sounds as though that there are not many bathroom options on, I've always called it the south side, but it's the west side, correct? The west side grandstands, the rebuilt ones.
That video occurred on Beaver Street. So
on the west side, right,
yes.
Under the new grandstands.
Yes.
Okay, so apparently what happened was somebody really had to go to the bathroom. And I'm assuming that's halftime because everybody was under the cover. So I'm assuming it was halftime. We don't know. We don't have a timestamp on it, but it felt like halftime. Guy clearly had to go. Number one. And
at least it wasn't number 2. That's the positive, right?
Yeah, you're right. Let's be positive.
At least somebody.
And I will say this. As a male, I have taken advantage of our anatomic situation in terms of having to relieve myself places that are not designed to relieve yourself. I've done it. Not proud of it.
I know. Yes.
Yeah. Golf courses. Sorry, there's a lot of trees. I'm going to go look for a golf ball back here in the woods. You grew up hunting and fishing. You know what I'm talking about.
I sure do.
Right? Just as guys.
You grew up in a small town. You know.
Yeah. So as a guy, you just road trips with the fam. I got to go. How bad? Yep. Pull over. Just go on the side of the road. Done it. Right?
We're walking that line, aren't we, Justin?
I've done it as an adult. I have. Hey, I'm on a 8-hour road trip right now. I've got no clue where the next rest stop is. It's dark. It's at night. You know what? I'm just going to go right here. Right? There are some tailgating spots in Autzen Stadium where it's just that porta potty line's real long. I'm going to go look what's in the trees over here. I think most of us have done it. Homeboy in the game decided middle of the stadium under a high top table, let Mother Nature fly. Just let it go. And somebody got a video of it. And what's probably the most disturbing part of it is the poor people around him because it was pouring down rain. So everything you have is wet, the ground. If you were in any other regular situation and you do that, somebody would be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You would note it's monsooning. So so the poor people around this guy have no earthly idea that he is relieving himself. Usually the things at stadiums that I have seen, it's usually the upchuck. You know what I mean? Somebody had a little too much fun at the tailgate party, and they tried to and it's upchuck city. I've seen that a number of times. Don't know if I've ever seen this.
This was new. It was unfortunate to see, and I bet that anyone at Oregon State would probably say the same thing. That being said,
also the internet sleuths are out. They're out.
Well, again, it was funny because I was reminded that 13 years ago to the day, Oregon State was able to track down via grainy video who lit the Reser Stadium turf on fire.
Yeah.
When Oregon went to the national championship in 2010, that person, Justin, was charged with a felony. So I imagine, was it worth it?
That right? Was that the victory cigar?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was felony mischief. So again, I'm no expert, but a felony probably not worth it for whatever that day was. I'm not saying this is that, but you look and it's at the end of the day, Justin, is that a crime? It's probably public indecency.
It's something bad.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's probably a crime.
More than that, I have. If this person is in fact ever identified, at least maybe don't come back to the stadium next year. Like, let's just take you.
Will you be banned? Will you be banned from research?
I don't want to do a ban for life thing. You know what? It's like I said, we've all had our moments where we've had maybe one too many, Coors Lights in our lives. You don't buy that stuff. You rent it, if you know what I mean. Like, it moves through you. I get it. Can't say in front of complete strangers in an empty stadium, or not, in a full stadium, thought to do that.
How about the people who were at the table with him? Just like the people who are filming the video rightfully are freaking out going, hello, like McFly, hello, anybody see what's happening here? And then there's the people that are standing at that table with him, Justin, who are just like, yeah, nothing to see. Nothing to see. Like, there's a stream of water and assumed it was what, rain?
But that's what I'm saying. If it was any other game, somebody would have been like, oh, you would have noticed it. But the fact is, when you get to a certain point, and we've all been out there in the rain, where you're just like, all right, I'm what? Not saying you wouldn't notice if somebody is
publicly relieving themselves
actively at your feet, but it's just like there's a table, I don't know. All I know is that video was disturbing. It was disturbing to say the least.
What a way to shut down Reeser for the year, Justin. A game like that for Oregon State that's just brutal, and then you have that.
By the way, I do remember the victory cigar thing. The reason I think that guy got charged, like, turf is expensive.
Yeah, it did. Like, I think somehow that story popped up in my feed, and it was like $2,000 worth of damage.
Because you can't just, all right, idiot took a cigar and lit it.
And then lit the shirt on fire. Then the shirt got thrown onto the field.
And turf, it melts.
Yeah, because it's rubber.
And you can't just, like, patch it. You got, like, that's a whole seam we got to replace now. And that was also the same game where it was not Oregon's finest moment. It was a nice moment because Oregon won and was going to play in the national title game, and that was great. Other than that, idiot Duck fan lights shirt on fire while smoking a cigar, ruins turf. Also, idiot Duck fan, I believe, stole the Lee Corso head from the College Game Day site.
Yep.
And the Beavs got blamed for it because people outside of here don't understand. Like, Civil War is a hodgepodge. Everybody goes. You're going to go to every tailgate that I'm going to be at on Friday is going to have both teams, which is, again, why it's so sad that it's ending. Don't have time for that right now. But you know what I mean? It is 40 miles. It's trip from Portland. Everybody's there. Poor Beavs fans on 2010, they're like, not only do we get beat, they set our turf on fire. Somebody stole the Lee Corso head, and they blamed it. Because I remember ESPN was like, come on, Beaver fans. And it's like, I don't think it was the Beaver fans. I'm pretty sure that was a traveling Oregon fan who stole that. And I think it was an Oregon student. And they ultimately found it, like, in the bushes somewhere. But what a day. What a day. What's Friday going to look like? I don't know. All right. What's right now going to look like? Well, let's get to the big three. a grumpy old man get off my lawn segment coming up in a bit. We got Make or Miss coming up here in just a moment. You know, I forgot about this with regard to the game on Friday. And I'm sure Mike Parker probably would know this because he is a very smart historian of this great rivalry. I'm sure there was a time where brothers were on opposing teams. But to have two former five-star high school recruits playing against each other this weekend, one of whom is the quarterback of one team and the other is an edge rusher, where we could potentially see an Uyunglele on Uyunglele sack in what is the final Oregon State game. I totally forgot about that fun little wrinkle.
You mean Uyunglele on Uyunglele crime, Justin?
I mean, I'm just saying, dude, you know little brother wants to hammer him.
And you know Big Brother wants to make a statement.
And Big Brother probably wants to just walk out of Austin. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Not to mention, it's the second time this season Big Brother's been to Autzen Stadium. First time he'll be playing on the football field.
That's right. He was.
So that's kind of, it's going to be, that storyline, Justin, as best I can tell. You've been around for a long time. I've been around for a long time. I consider myself to be a savant when it comes to history as well. Nobody of consequence comes to mind. Now, granted, were there maybe some
I'm sure like
scout team cousins kind of a thing?
Or I bet like back in the 70s, like, you know, the Johnson brothers, like one from, I don't know, where from like.
Lebanon.
From where?
Like Lebanon.
From like Lebanon, yeah. And it's just like one went to Oregon and one went to Oregon State. I'm sure that happened at some particular time, but when recruiting and obviously the both programs went into better, like.
Yeah, who do you think the big high school players were in the 60s, Justin? I don't even think Lebanon was a move back then.
Well, I mean, look, Roseburg was a big deal where I come from.
Probably Roseburg, yeah.
The Roseburg football wagon was a thing. Southern Oregon was huge because you had Medford High School. Before it became North and South Medford, it was big, giant conglomerate. And it was all of those logging towns that like the one that I grew up in. And all those loggers kids, their dad went out to the forest and cut down trees. And it was like, kid became offensive lineman for Medford or Ashland or for Roseburg or for Klamath Falls. And then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? These guys are good, but we go down to California and get them. And that was really kind of what changed everything. Because back in the 60s and into the 70s, there was no 85 scholarship limit. You know what I mean? USC just would hand out scholarships left and right. And the USC dynasty was built on the fact that you would get a free ride to go to USC. You'd be a fourth-string running back who could start at probably 100 other teams in the country. Well, you can't transfer back then. And you're getting a free ride at USC. And it's like, we got a guy hurt. Guess what? We got like 4 other guys all behind. And then all of a sudden they were like, nope, 85. That's your limit. And so, you know, the USCs and the Texases of the world were like, all right. And Oregon and then Oregon State ultimately were like, you know, there's a lot of those kids down there in California who USC can't offer. Maybe let's bring them up here. And then you saw less and less. But to see those two kids, to see the DJ and Mateo Uyunglele, like, Brendan, like you said, not even of consequence, lining up against one another. One is the quarterback. The other's job is to sack said quarterback. What a time. Because we've had, obviously, why am I forgetting his name? Thomas Tyner. He played for both. Helped Oregon win a Rose Bowl. Shoulder injury, medical red shirt, came back, played for the Beavs. So he played for both teams in this rivalry. I know there's a handful of walk-ons. Shout out Caleb Tomasini from my high school, who was a walk-on on either team after a transfer. But, man, 2 brothers playing against each other in the final one?
I'm sure that he doesn't have any regrets, Justin, but I'll say this. I feel really bad because I got a chance to get to know Thomas a little bit for that year that he was in Corvallis, and that so happened to be the year that Gary Anderson quit after 5 games, and They went 1-11. It was arguably the worst season in Oregon State football history in the modern era, as Mike Parker loves to say. And
Okay.
again, one of the best. I don't know how much your paths crossed with him when you were in Eugene, or maybe you were already in Seattle at that time, Justin. But Thomas was just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Super nice.
And,
great.
Like I said,
I interviewed him a
remember
handful of times when I was down there. He was like, could have been better.
And I just remember being kind of like, man, I really feel bad that, like, this is what you came into, kind of a thing, because it was, compared to, like you said, what he was used to. Like, I think he knew it was going to be a work in progress. No one could have expected it to be that bad that year.
All right, I've always joked, not even joked, I've always said, for Oregon football, like the modern era of Oregon football started in 1989. 1989, Bill Musgrave takes the Ducks to the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Which is a Pac-12 bowl again this year, which is just crazy. So how about that?
Sponsored by Pool on Weed Eaters.
And
the Pool on Weed Eater Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. 1989 was kind of the modern era of Oregon football for me. When did the modern era of Oregon football for Oregon State? Was that the moment they hired Mike Riley?
I will answer that in a moment, Justin. Is it coincidence that that's also a Taylor Swift album?
Well, not really.
89? Is it just is something good about 89 for you, man? Because you told me the other day you were excited for Taylor's version of that album to come out.
Brennan, I'm excited for Taylor's versions of all the albums, okay?
See, folks,
all the Taylor's versions of the album
turned
I'm
into
excited
the Swiftie
about.
over there.
But yeah,
no, I would say Oregon.
I'm sure Taylor Swift thought of it. You know what? 1989, probably a lot of monumental things. Oregon going to the Independence Bowl. They beat UCLA, tore down the goalpost at Autzen Stadium.
She was looking. I'm just kidding.
Big
but
deal.
All jokes aside,
I think Civil War 6-3 that year.
Yeah. All jokes aside, no. I think you're pretty spot on. I would say that it probably. Beaver fans would say when Erickson took them to the bowl game in '99, and they broke.
That's the modern era.
I would think so. I think it started. Sorry for the bad memory, Justin. '98, Reser Stadium.
100%.
But to still wasn't that like their fourth win or fifth win that year? I think.
Yes.
So that was the start of it. When Erickson took you to a bowl game, it's like, hey guys, for the first time in 26, 28, whatever it is. Sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head. Almost 30 years. We've gone to the postseason. Yeah, I think that's when it officially started, Justin. I mean, people don't even imagine not going to a bowl game for 30 years in today's era. There was
especially with so many bowl games, and you could schedule your way into half of the wins you need.
I think I'm encroaching on that number, Justin. In 3 short years, actually more like 2.5, I will have been on this planet for 30 years, and I'm like, so if the Beavers hadn't gone to a bowl game ever since I was born, that would be pretty close to what it was like, which would be just nuts.
I know.
So that's
so it was a different time, right? There weren't a lot of bowl games back then, and there was some tough times. Maybe a bad coaching hire or two happens. All right, let's get into make or miss.
It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good. Oh my goodness! Oh, and a big miss.
It's make or miss here on RCM.
All right, Justin, we're going to start with a couple shots across the bow and make or miss today. Get a little critical. Zach Wilson will never be a starting NFL quarterback again.
Unless, asterisk, by way of injury, right, as a backup, somebody gets injured, comes in. Yeah, I think that's a make. You only get so many chances.
So that, in
right?
other
You
words,
only get so many chances, and how many chances was Zach Wilson able to get? And, this is one of those things where you look at who are these quarterbacks that not, and this is not a hard and fast rule. There's exceptions to every rule. But you look at the quarterbacks that are succeeding, and then you look at some of the quarterbacks that are not. And, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance didn't play a lot of college football. Now, part of that was COVID, but didn't play an awful lot of college football. Justin Herbert, now, he's putting up yards, not really winning, but he's succeeding. Played 4 years of college football. What's ultimately going to happen when Penix and Nix get into the league? I think they're going to find some success because they're 50-some games of college football. That's a lot of experience. And Zach Wilson got thrown into the fire. And The New York Jets have chewed up and spit out yet another quarterback. And, yeah, other than being a backup and getting a start because a starter is injured, yeah, I think time is.
You don't think
Look, the NFL is not for everybody. All right,
Do you think
it's tough, but the NFL is not for everybody.
Do you think is there a situation where, like, well, and let's compare and contrast a little bit here. Like, is it the Jets as an organization in the sense that, like, he wasn't going to be their starter, but I bet you at this moment you put Kyle Shanahan in the truth table and say, hey, Kyle, you know, who's a team that needs a quarterback? Hey, Kyle, the Atlanta Falcons are going to throw $20 million a year at Brock Purdy after this year, right? Say he goes win Super Bowl.
Yeah.
49ers can't match that, Justin. We know their roster is ridiculous already. And you're telling me Kyle Shanahan wouldn't go, yeah, we could roll with Sam Darnold? I almost wonder, like, let's compare, even to the last Jets quarterback.
You think they'd rather have Sam Darnold than have Zach Wilson?
Who?
If the 49ers ultimately have to move on from Brock Purdy, which...
That's what I'm asking. Is, like, is it a Jets thing, or if they, like, let's compare the two. Like, because very clearly, a couple years ago it was, oh, Sam Darnold's terrible. He's done. And then it was, well, he'll go to the Niners. And it's, well, with Kyle Shanahan and kind of a thing. So I wonder, is this a Jets problem? And could there be another team, not necessarily the Niners, who are like, yeah, I'll kick the tires on Zach Wilson like the Cowboys are doing with Trey Lance right now?
I think part of it is a Jets problem. You don't lose this much for this long with different regimes and different GM, different coaches. I was like, well, yeah, you're still losing. Maybe it's head down type of deal. You know what I mean? Maybe it is something to do with the organization. They've had their spurts, right? Rex Ryan took them to the conference title a couple of times. But for the most part, they have been a franchise that has not won a Super Bowl since the 60s. They have not appeared in a Super Bowl since the 60s. And so I think maybe some of that is just organizational. But this is what it comes down to. And it's not good radio because it's not very hot take, even though I love hot takes. The bottom line is finding quarterbacks are hard. It's hard. NFL is not for everybody. And there is no proper way to evaluate it. Carolina Panthers, now we'll see what happens with Bryce Young. Now maybe he just has one of those rough rookie years, takes a lot of lumps, learns a lot of lessons, and ultimately has a fine NFL career. It's happened before. Go back and look at Peyton Manning's first year, right? It didn't go so well. Go back and look at Troy Aikman's rookie year. It did not go so well, but if you can build around them, they're going to be okay. Finding quarterbacks is tough. And the fact that you have now been given multiple opportunities on a team, I'm talking about Zach Wilson right now, on a team that was set up for you to be a game manager and at least lose games like, 17-14. Because that defense and that running game and everything else, all you got to do is just not turn the ball over. And he can't stop turning the ball over. You mentioned Brock Purdy, right? You put any quarterback in Kyle Shanahan's system. Yeah, I get that. But you know what Brock Purdy doesn't do? He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. And when you don't turn the ball over and you give your defense a chance and you give yourself a mathematical chance in the fourth quarter, a couple of the balls are going to bounce your way and you're going to find your way into some wins. Problem with Zach Wilson just kept digging holes and digging holes and digging holes. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know if the NFL is for you, bud. It's a cruel world, but for the sake of the league, I don't know if the NFL is for you.
I mean, let's look back at that draft, Justin, since we love to look back at NFL drafts.
It's the COVID draft, right?
No,
By that, I mean their last year in college was the COVID year of college.
Yes, it was not the one that Roger Goodell did from home where Bill Belichick's dog drafted and all that stuff.
Yeah, and he sat in that leather chair. I saw that leather chair, by the way, at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, boy, that's pretty egotistical. Put your own leather chair there.
But no, I mean, you go top dog, Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that would change. I still think T-Law is going to go number one overall.
Well, you had also, with Trevor Lawrence, you had 2 pre-COVID years where you're like, all right, that guy's going number one overall.
Yeah, where he was really good. But then you go Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Oops.
Not a lot of football played between them.
Then you go Kyle Pitts at 4. Oops. Hasn't really met what he needed to meet to go number 4 overall.
He's in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, tight end.
Yeah, not the weapon that they thought he was going to be, no.
Jamar Chase, pretty good.
Jamar Chase is pretty good. But again, that was more the 2019 evaluation as opposed to the 2020.
But specifically quarterbacks, Justin Fields goes 11. He might be giving up on this year.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts, okay? Mac Jones.
But clearly, say what you will. Like, Justin Fields maybe needs another year. Fentress was on yesterday, said needs another year. Do you have any confidence that Justin Fields is going to figure it out and be a Pro Bowler? Maybe, but
it's not impossible. I'll say this because I saw flashes last year. Unlike Zach Wilson, who's never shown flashes. Like, I've seen flashes from Justin Fields.
Yeah.
It's existed, kind of. We'll see. Finishing off that list, Justin, Mac Jones. Pretty sure he's
he's on his way to being a backup for somebody.
And that is the quarterback draft. So you're talking, I mean, no disrespect to Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, Ian Book, or Sam Ehlinger, but those guys aren't going to hang. So you really looking back at that draft and go, one guy. That's got to be one of the lowest success rates out of a draft in recent memory, Justin.
Yeah, but you got to go back and remember.
One.
I know you and I are in the same boat where, like, we do not want to know what happened. Like, I don't want to relive it. I don't want to, like, put a mask on unless you're taking a drink and then put it back up unless you're at the table and you can take it all. Like, I don't want to go back to that life. I hated that life.
Yeah,
I know Tiger King and all that stuff.
Hey, I did like Tiger King. I'm not going to lie.
I did, too.
It was entertaining to watch, man.
Needed it at the time. But you got to also remember, beyond just the fact that they played sparing amounts of football, remember that evaluation year, they didn't have a combine, right? They didn't have a combine. They didn't have in-person interviews. They didn't have pro days. You didn't have visitations to the facility. It was all via Zoom. All that stuff matters. That's how you get the high. Yeah, there's always going to be busts in the NFL. But all that evaluation that they were not allowed to do, and you kind of almost had to just go on faith, right? I would imagine at some point the Jets would have brought Zach Wilson in and interviewed him in person and run him through a couple of workouts. And they're like, number 3 overall, I don't see it. Like, maybe 3rd round. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why you saw such a low success rate in that draft, because they couldn't evaluate. All right.
Even still, it's one of those things where I think they're going to look back and go, yikes. And everybody who there were a lot of teams that felt the pressure to make because it was like Trevor Lawrence was at the top, and then teams were like, we have to match that quarterback, when in reality, there were a lot of really good skill position players. Like, Justin, I've listed that off to you. In hindsight, pretty sure like Jamar Chase goes number 2 overall in a redraft.
Yeah, Jamar Chase definitely goes number 2 overall.
Which he fell all the way to 6, so nevertheless.
Because he's with the Jets. The Jets would have taken him and like, we'll find a quarterback in like the 3rd round.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So, nevertheless.
Real quick, because we got to wrap it up here in a second. Going back to what we talked about with Fentress. If the Bears get the number 1 pick, which they're likely going to because they're getting the Panthers pick. The Bears get that number 1 pick, and they say, you know what? We're not done with Justin Fields. We're not done with him. What team out there throws the world at the Bears for Caleb Williams? What team out there?
So again, this is still my conspiracy theory. We'll see if it holds true, Justin.
Trying to put your Caleb Williams bias aside.
It is. No, actually, I'll love him in the NFL because that's where it's okay to be spoiled and rich and happy and all that stuff. College, remember, we got to be classy.
Yeah.
Got to be classy, above brow. Don't tell me how much money you're making.
You're a student athlete. Student comes first.
Go to
for
class,
a reason.
Caleb. Don't be in Wendy's. I'm just kidding. Anyway, my disdain for Raiders. I think
they're going to get Harbaugh
in a very Al Davis kind of a way. They are going to
tip of the cap, and thank you for all who are going to be working on both Thursday and Friday so that, you know, we can get these Black Friday deals and do be like mob scenes to get these Christmas gifts, because somebody's got to run the check, the checkout register, and somebody's got to open up the doors, and somebody's got to be at the grocery store on Thursday when one of us inevitably forgets something that we need for Thanksgiving, or needs to go on a beer run for that matter, because we've had enough of the family time and just like we did not bring enough beer. So a tip of the cap and a big thank you to everybody that's going to be out there working, grinding, getting it done on Thursday and Friday so that the rest of us can enjoy our Thanksgiving holiday. You are not lost on me, but for the most part, we all get a 3-day work week, which is, and it's, let's be honest, other than us, because we're putting in a full show on Wednesday, yeah, a lot of you are going to be able to bounce out probably about noon or 1 tomorrow. It's a 2.5-day work week. It really is. But you know what? That plus Thanksgiving plus football brings my favorite time of the year. But it is still Tuesday, though. And while it is not the statistical Tuesday that we talk about before this particular segment, where we aren't anywhere close to the weekend, because we are very, very close, a job must still be done. There is still some grumpiness in me. And now it is time for you all to get off my lawn.
It's time for Justin to get grumpy. Get off my lawn on RCM.
All right, to the plastic pop-up thingy in the turkey. Get off my lawn. You serve no purpose, sir. You serve no purpose other than to guarantee a dry, flavorless, overcooked, too safe bird that is going to ruin everybody's Thanksgiving, that you have to douse with gravy because there is no moisture. If you have a turkey and you grab one of those pop-up temperature timer and you don't rip that bad boy out within first 2 seconds of that turkey defrosting, you are just going to guarantee yourself a dry, flavorless, overcooked bird. I firmly put the blame, Brendan, on the pop-up timer. Now, you're not a turkey guy. That's understood. And you know what? I think maybe the reason why you're not a turkey guy is because maybe too many times, now, I don't know who did the cooking in the Slaughter family household growing up, but maybe potentially somebody trusted that little pop-up thing a little too much, and ultimately it led to overcooking said turkey in the oven, and young Brendan was like, this is disgusting. This is dry. There is no flavor to it. And they're like, put some gravy on it. And you're like, I'm a picky eater. I don't like gravy.
And then an alternative was made for me, so here's where we are.
And then that just becomes what you do every year.
Gotta call a spade, man. Like I said.
Now, I don't want to be this guy, because I've heard this when I say, look, I don't like beets. And they go, well, you got to try it in my beet salad. I'm like, I'm not going to like it, okay? There's only 2 things in this world I don't like. It's beets and it's Brussels sprouts. Everything else I'll give a shot.
And I made Justin eat this one time, folks.
Well, to be fair, Jonathan Smith made me eat those beets because I didn't think there was any way, shape, or form they were going to a bowl game 2 years ago. And lo and behold, they ultimately not only went to a bowl game, they had it wrapped up before Civil War.
They did.
Didn't know they were going to fire their defensive coordinator, change their season around. But that being said, I don't like beets and I don't like Brussels sprouts. Like, well, you haven't tried my Brussels sprouts. Yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to like them. It's fine. So I don't want to be this guy. But I would say I don't know if the turkey that I'm going to make would be good by Monday morning when we come back here. But I'd be willing to bet you might like my turkey. I make a pretty good turkey. I can. You may not. You may have already made up your mind. It's like, Justin, do you like turkey sandwiches?
No.
You don't like turkey sandwiches?
No, like,
so you're just out on turkey
Yeah,
altogether.
like I go to Subway, that's not an option. Like, or whatever. Like, that's not an option. Like, Justin, the Cornish game hens have been bought. They are sitting in the freezer.
I'm surprised you do that. You don't just make a chicken or something.
We did the chicken last year. This year we went back to the hens because we liked them so much from the year prior, man.
Gotcha.
So, you know, again, I'm a total, like, I'm a total eatery snob.
But I believe it is the problem of the little plastic thing that they play it too safe.
You're 100%
Look,
right.
now, you don't want to undercook your turkey. You don't want everybody sick. Unless maybe you don't like your family, then undercook that bird. But you don't want to undercook it. But there is a sweet spot. And I think that plastic pop-up thing is near the end of, and it's just like Armageddon. You're playing it safe. The rig that you built, it's like the turkey that I make with my probe thermometer and not your little plastic pop-up thing. It's going to be right in that
And
sweet
that's
spot.
where you have to go, Justin. You know, those people in that dining room have zero interest in playing hero. Just do it by the book is what they should. But no.
No, but I'm playing hero on Thursday.
I love it.
I'm playing hero. I am in charge of one thing and one thing only, and that is that turkey, and I am pumped for it.
Yeah, no, I would be willing to bet. I would try. Like, say we happen to be together.
I think you would like
I
it.
would try it.
But it would not
Be good by Monday. It's a
It
long
would be
wait.
mediocre by Monday.
Yeah,
Let's just say that.
And, you know, like I said, all the rest of Thanksgiving, Justin, all the side dishes, everything else, I'm all in, man. Just got to change that meat.
All right, coming up. Oh, boy, let that settle real quick. All right, coming up, friend of the program, Devon Pouncey is going to be joining us live in studio for the entire third hour, talking a lot of hoops next, 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know. From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Philadelphia Eagles win the regular season rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs, taking down Mahomes and company 21-17 in Kansas City on Monday Night Football. Philadelphia now has the best record in the NFL. They sit at 9-1. Chiefs drop to 7-3. Blazers in action tonight. They'll be taking on the Phoenix Suns. Tip-off is at 6. Pre-game coverage begins at 3:30 right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. And the Pittsburgh Steelers made a rare coaching change in the middle of the season. They have relieved offensive coordinator Matt Canada of his coaching duties. Good luck on all your future endeavors. Joining us for the entire third hour of the show, live in studio. He was on TV last night. He is now in studio with us this morning, the basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix, also the basketball analyst for Rip City Mornings. Devon Pouncey joins the show right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. The most transparent show in Portland is Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, here on 620 Rip City Radio.
That's right. It is hour number 3 of Rip City Mornings. Last night, as I was making dinner, settling in for the night, flipped on the old Rip City Remix game to see my boy on the call.
That's right.
Devon Pouncey. Sounded great.
Thank you.
Broadcast was good.
Yeah.
Sounded like you were having a good time, enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm loosening up, man. I got to call 3 games in 4 days. You know, the first one is you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
New broadcast partner, somebody I just met 2 weeks ago. And but he's real good. Shout out to Gareth Kwok. He's super dope play-by-play guy. So the first game, you know, we just kind of loosening up, getting a feel for each other, getting to know each other. Then the second game, you know, you get through the first half, and then the second half we got loose. And then yesterday we just came out hot. It was just right out the gate. We were both loose. We were both, you know, doing our jobs and doing it as well as we could. But also, now we can crack a Thanksgiving joke here or there. We could, you know.
I believe it was Moses Brown with the stuffing 2 days before Thanksgiving.
2 days before Thanksgiving.
Got a chuckle out of me.
And then Kobe Brown went and dunked on the other end and joined in on the feast. And, yeah, it was a pretty good time. It was a pretty good time, that's for sure.
All right, so let's talk about this, because I still am kind of a novice when it comes to the G League. It was formerly the D League, and it's gone through some evolutions,
yes,
right? It kind of started off as, hey, it's minor league basketball, last chance for professional basketball for a lot of people. But now you are seeing some guys on two-way contract. I know, like, the Blazers on Sunday night had a time where almost everybody on the court for the Blazers against Oklahoma City in the fourth quarter, because they were getting their teeth kicked in.
Yes.
Everybody on the Blazers was at one point on the Rip City Remix.
Yeah.
And
at one point, meaning the day before, the starting 5 for the remix the day before, which was Saturday, ended up all playing together late in the game Sunday night. As you mentioned, you know, Oklahoma City had ran away with that game, but those guys were all able to get on the floor together the very next day as Portland Trailblazers. So, yes.
but it seems as though, because more and more guys are finding different paths to the NBA, right?
Yes.
It used to be real simple. You would go to college, or you would, before there was the one and done rule, right? If you were a phenom, you get drafted out of high school.
For
if
sure.
not, you go to Duke, you go to Kansas, you go to Kentucky, you go to Oregon, you go to USC, UCLA, you play there for a year and all that. And now we are seeing with the G League Ignite, and we're also seeing guys, and I know he's not that popular around here, but it's still a fascinating story of your former teammate growing up, GP2.
Yes.
Of kind of, the G League is a place where you can find your role, because in the NBA, everybody can score, right?
Everybody's gifted.
Everybody's got a jump shot. Everybody can find a way to put the ball in the bucket, but that's not how certain players find a career.
Yes.
And I think the G League is kind of one of those places where you saw it with GP2, where it's like, I can find myself in my career and develop it in the G League, and then ultimately find a role on a team in the NBA. And it seems like the competition for the G League, and obviously you're calling it night in and night out, is getting better and better each and every year.
It definitely is. It feels like NBA basketball. Now, I know there's levels. I'm not saying that it is the NBA itself, but what I mean by that is you get the high scoring, you get the good pace, you get very talented players, you get a lot of guys that are NBA veterans now playing, in the G League. I mean, I was calling a game for Dwayne Dedman yesterday. He's a 10-year NBA vet. So, there's so many elements of the NBA. You have these two-way guys that are fluctuating back and forth between, their franchise that they're playing for, and then obviously their G League team, which is like their minor league franchise. And then also I think one of the better elements is a lot of first-round picks are playing in the G League. You kind of mentioned how the evolution is taking place where you had the high school guys that were going into the NBA, and majority of them just weren't ready. And so then they had to create this one and done rule in college. Well, now you have the G League where you can have the element of having the G League ignite. But then even the first round guys that do ultimately get drafted, maybe if they even did go to college, but they're just not quite there and ready to play significant minutes in the NBA, they can go get G League runs. So I'm watching Chris Murray, who's the Blazers' first-round pick, go head-to-head with Kobe Brown, who was the Clippers' first-round pick in the most recent draft, in the last couple of games. So you're able to see ultimately what the premier talent is expected to be in the future of the NBA in the next 5 to 7 years, very early on here in their G League careers and NBA careers at large. So there's a lot more elements of the G League that are just different that makes it vital to the entire ecosystem of the NBA.
I've always talked about this for the last couple of years because I was one where you forget that these players are human beings.
Yes.
Right? They're X's, they're O's, they're pieces, there are salary caps, right? They are this X amount of money here, and you forget they're human beings. And you hear of stories of guys that kind of come up, and let's just use Chris Murray for an example. If the G League didn't exist, or if the remix didn't exist, he would be sitting at the end of the Blazers bench night in and night out.
Yes.
He'd probably get some run in practice, and that's about it. Other than that, even on a team that I've dubbed it a soft tank. It's not. I don't think the Blazers are full on tanking, but I think if they drop a game here or there, no big whoop.
Right.
But for the most part, if you're drafted, what was he, 24th overall?
Yeah.
If you're drafted 24th overall on a team that has the number 3 overall pick and has kind of already an 8-9-man rotation that you're not a part of, unless there's a blowout, you're sitting at the end of the bench, and you might not play a basketball game for a month.
Yeah.
And so there's the experience of it, but there's also kind of the mental health side of it, where I'm sure you have known guys that you play your entire life. You're the best player in junior high and on your AAU team. So much you're getting recruited by high schools, right?
Right.
And you're getting brought, this Catholic school is giving you a scholarship to go play for their team. And then you go play in college and you're on full ride. And then all of a sudden, now you're benched for the first time ever in your life.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys don't handle that well. So I think having that G League option for a guy like Chris Murray, for a guy like Kobe Brown, for the Clippers, and I'm sure, wonder what it would be like if Anthony Simons, his rookie year, because he didn't play. He sat on the bench, maybe got 5 minutes a month of NBA basketball.
For sure.
If you could have just popped up to the Child Center, thrown on a remix jersey, played about 15 or 20 minutes, and just kind of keep your head in the game.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
It keeps you fresh. It keeps your head in the game. I think the player that I've seen so far, obviously really early on in the season, who's benefited from the G League is Moses Brown. Moses Brown has had a double-double in the last couple of games for the remix, but you could just gradually see him progress at that level already where, he just looks more confident out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Having a great game last night, coming off of a solid game on Saturday, but you could just see in the way his body language and his mannerisms are that, he's starting to find himself a little bit. And ultimately, that will translate to the NBA at some point. At least that's the plan for it all. But, to be able to see the early progressions of it at the G League level where most casual fans may not even be aware of it, I'm able to see that, oh, man, from game to game, this dude is getting better. He's grabbing rebounds with more confidence. He's playing tougher. He's dunking left and right. He's getting up and blocking shots. All the things that you want a 7'2" guy to do, but sometimes it's a little bit harder to be able to get that done and play as freely in the NBA because, quite frankly, the leash is a little bit shorter. But now he's out there getting loose.
I don't know if people understand either. And because, again, I'm kind of learning this on the fly as well. The rules and style of play from college to the NBA
World of difference.
is so different.
I
It
mean-
is like so different, right? College, they're still sitting in 2-3 zones,
Yeah.
right? Protect the paint.
30-second shot clocks in comparison to 24.
Micromanaging by the coaches.
For sure. For sure.
Sets are, and again, I don't know, but even where you look at where the restricted area is, what on a rip through, the style of officiating,
Yeah.
all of that stuff is very, very different. And like you talked about, for a guy like Chris Murray or a guy like Moses Brown, guys who are coming from college, who are used to succeeding and finding ways to win that way, like, no, you got to learn these rules.
Yeah.
You got to learn this style.
Or a guy like me on the broadcast that's never called a professional game in my life. I've been doing college my entire career. And so I've been coming in on the call, and that's one thing that I've had to adjust to is sort of the pace of the game. But also with college, like college is a lot more system-based. Like, as you mentioned, sort of the micromanaging from coaches. You got to try to find guys that fit your system well.
Yeah.
Where the NBA, even the G League itself now, is more situation-based, is what I like to say. The talent pool is gifted across the board. Everybody here is a pro. Now it's about finding the gifts of these pros and putting them in the right situation to be able to maximize their gifts on the floor. Where in college, you might have 2 or 3 gifted guys on your team, and then the rest of your players, you just need them to be able to fit within your system well, and you can have a good chance at winning a lot of games and having success at that level. Here it's completely different. You just got to find the right situation because everybody on the floor has a gift for playing at this level.
Devon Pouncey is joining us live in studio. He is the basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix. 3 games into the season up at Chiles Center. I was watching last night on
Fox 12.
Fox 12 Plus.
Yeah, Fox 12 Plus.
Check out the broadcast. Like I said earlier, sounded great. Sounded like you're having fun. And it feels like a nice, fun, affordable way to watch basketball, too.
Very much so. I mean, you can get tickets.
I might get on the wood at the remix
you
game.
Can get on the wood.
You got
Come sit by me, man. You can hear a joke or two, right? Right, live and direct. But no, it's definitely affordable. You can get tickets as low as $10 for adults, $5 as kids. And again, it's quality basketball, and it's a league that the quality of the basketball has gotten better, and the likelihood of these players actually getting a chance of playing in the NBA and sticking is like 50%, essentially, because that's how many guys on opening rosters in this NBA season had G League experience. So you're legitimately watching NBA guys out there. They're just at a point in their career where they're still trying to find their way and ultimately stick. But 1 out of 2 guys are going to get that chance in the league. But very affordable, a very good, fun environment. You got the music going the entire game, so you got DJing out there. They got activities for the youth. Like it's a good time, and it's good basketball. It's real quality basketball.
All right, so coming up next, we're going to talk some NBA. Since the last time we have chatted, Draymond Green choked out Rudy Gobert. Jokic got kicked out of the game last night in the second half or in the second quarter.
Him and his coach for that regard.
Yeah, the Blazers have been dealing with a nasty injury bug and an interesting game tonight in Phoenix from both DeAndre Ayton and Yusuf Nurkic's perspective, which is going to be fantastic. I'm curious your thoughts on that. We talk some more NBA coming up next with Devon Pouncey here on 620 Rip City Radio. couple of weeks, Pound. So we
Yes,
got to talk
sir.
some NBA. So let's start. As I said yesterday, let's eat our vegetables first. Let's talk about the Blazers because they are in a bit of a funk right now. They have lost 7 games in a row. Obviously, the injury bug has hit this team, and I'm not saying it's time to actively start reevaluating where the season is going to go, but I think we can kind of have more of an idea of what this season is going to look like. I think they're going to finish in the bottom 5, somewhere around there, which is part of the process.
It's part of the process.
This is a rebuild. Rebuilds are not fun. When they talk about growing pains, pain. There's pain associated.
Yeah.
You're going to go through the growing pains. Yeah, there's going to be some painful parts.
For sure.
The Blazers are kind of dealing with it right now and dealing with that injury bug. So, with that being said, they got Phoenix tonight on the road, which is kind of fascinating. They played twice in the preseason.
Yeah.
But now a game that counts. DeAndre Ayton going back. I don't think he's going to get a tribute video.
No, I don't either.
Honest, Richard. Is he going to get booed? Think he gets booed in Phoenix? Do you think they are like
potentially, but I don't think he would care. I think even with, as you mentioned, the pain that the Blazers are going through in the midst of these growing pains, like DeAndre Ayton just looks a lot more happy out there, and I think effort is a huge part of showing like how happy a guy is. His body language. He's playing hard for the Blazers. Like he's not going out there and not rebounding, being lazy. You know what I'm saying? They just are struggling to win ball games, which, as you mentioned, you kind of expected in sort of this rebuild time period. But I don't think Ayton really cares at all if they boo him, if they give him a tribute video. Like, I think somebody like, you remember when there's a clip going around a while ago with like a KD, for example, and him, wanting to get his tribute video and getting his jersey retired in Golden State and all these things. Like, KD is somebody that I think would look for those kinds of sentiments from teams that he used to play for, whether it be the Warriors or OKC, something like that. I don't think Ayton cares either which way because he just was not the happiest while he was in Phoenix, and he's just glad to be out of there. So, I don't know whether he'll get received well or he'll receive boos, but I don't think cares.
I'm with you. I like the effort that Ayton has had. I like the effort of most of the time with this Blazer team. Sunday was tough.
It was tough.
It was a tough game. Thunder are really good. We talked about that in the preseason. Thunder are going to be really good this year. And
they're a problem.
And that's kind of the blueprint that the Blazers are on. Now, we'll see ultimately if Shaden and Scoot ultimately become Shea and Chet.
Yeah.
But you kind of look at the way that the Thunder kind of they pushed all their chips in, went with the big 3. Had to trade them all away. Seemed as though the franchise was kind of in ruins when Dame waved them off.
Yeah.
And then there's like, we'll just 7 picks here, 8 picks here.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of lay the groundwork. And again, don't know if the Clippers, looking back, going like, boy, probably shouldn't have given up that guy.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have given up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
He's tough. Oh, my gosh.
Especially with what they have right now with Paul George. But regardless, that's kind of the position the Blazers are in. Here's where my concerns lie, and tell me if you think I'm overthinking this, which is always a possibility. It's always a possibility. The effort has been there this year.
Yes.
And I like the fact that these guys are playing hard for Chauncey Billups. At some point, we're going to get to Thanksgiving, and then we're going to get to Christmas, and then we're going to get to New Year's. And if you don't have a competitive chance to win these games, I wonder how long, the competitiveness lasts, and maybe some bitterness works itself in. Now, I realize right now, these guys are realistic. They know. Got 4 starters out, right? Robert Williams gone for the year. You've had Ant, Scoot, and Malcolm Brogdon all out. That's 4 legitimate rotational players.
Right.
You're not going to beat teams.
No.
With that kind of injury bug, and maybe you just kind of hunker down and get through it. But at some point, to start rebuilding, I believe you got to get competitive. And hopefully when these injuries work themselves out and this team gets back, I'm not expecting them to win a ton of games. I'm not expecting them to even make the playoffs.
Just have a chance to win
to have some competitive games, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they started off losing, their first 3 games, and then they won 3 in a row. So, I mean, we saw them be able to be somewhat competitive when they were mostly healthy. Obviously, I think Scoot went down initially. You had Simons go down pretty early on as well. But even with that, like having Brogdon there, who is questionable and may be able to come back tonight, you had somewhat some continuity in the front court with Ayton starting and Williams, backing him up because they both kind of are similar guys in the sense of like, they're big guys. They're more so anchors. They're not really like stretch guys. They aren't guys that are looking to score a ton of points, but they can anchor and hold down the painted area. I do think you have to wait until you're mostly healthy to even start to kind of get in the realm of any kind of frustration because you aren't out there competing. These guys are competitors ultimately at the end of the day. So I get what you're saying from like a human standpoint. I don't think you're thinking too deep into it as well. But when you look at just how limited that they've been in regards to their roster and all of the health issues that have occurred, that you have to give them some time to get back healthy and try to find a rhythm again before worrying about if they are or aren't just out there competing and playing hard. And so I don't think you're thinking too deep into it from like an athlete standpoint. I agree wholeheartedly, but at the same time, if we're just being flat out realistic here, they've got to be healthy before you can even really kind of get into those conversations.
One of the other things that has kind of popped up, and I can kind of see both ways, but I don't know if he's still number one, but I think Shaedon Sharpe at one point was leading the NBA in minutes played.
Yeah.
And we're in a time where everybody freaks out about load management, right? And
yes,
we can blame the Spurs for that. They started it years ago, and then it kind of became a status symbol of like, well, no, we got to rest our guys. And so all fans freak out about minutes played. And so I can see where there is some concern about, well, I mean, it's not even November. You're playing this second-year guy, X amount of minutes. He's leading the NBA in minutes. But then on the other hand, this 20-year-old kid. You grew up
and he loves it.
You grew up in AAU culture.
For sure.
You know the world that kind of Shaedon Sharpe came from, where
Definitely.
you're playing like 3 games in a day.
In a day, easy.
You go to Vegas or you go to Atlanta or you go down to LA, and it's just warehouses full of courts, and it's just like, we got a 9:30. We got a 1.
Yeah, the circuit is crazy
Maybe get some lunch. Then we got a 7 o'clock. I mean, it's a world where obviously the minutes and the miles on the legs. But he did mention after, I think it might have been on the Laker game on Friday that, there was some fatigue there and there's been a little bit of frustration there.
Yeah, I mean, again, and that's where I don't think you're thinking too deep into it, because as a competitor, when you are putting that much time in out there on the floor and you're playing that many minutes and piling up that many miles and then you still lose, like, it's not fun to sit with losing. Like, I don't think he's going out there playing all of those minutes in an attempt to lose basketball games. So I can see where the frustration sets in there. But again, once they get healthy, those minutes will decrease a bit. When you get Simons back, he'll eat up some of those minutes. Brogdon will be able to eat up some of those minutes. Scoot obviously will be able to eat up some of those minutes. So you have 3 backcourt players that are hurt right now. So he is kind of on an island a bit in regards to being a guy who you expected to be logging a significant amount of minutes and actually doing it with 3 other guys who's supposed to be his helpmates essentially in that backcourt that just aren't available.
Devon Pouncey, our basketball analyst here on Rip City Mornings. He's also the Rip City Remix basketball analyst, joining us live in studio. And this popped up on my TikTok the other day. I don't know if I told you this. I'm addicted to TikTok.
I'm aware.
It's a problem.
I'm aware.
You love the Instagram.
I'm an Instagram guy. I haven't made it over to TikTok yet. I might have an account, but I don't remember.
Full on addicted to TikTok.
Yeah.
It's a problem. But so I don't know if it was like a recent thing, but it popped up that Doc Rivers, obviously former coach of the Sixers, was talking about how the difference between American-born players and foreign-born players and kind of where we are from a basketball perspective. And we're sitting here where, I mean, the top players in the league, Jokic, Giannis, right? It's Embiid, and you see it's Luka. It's these foreign-born players. Now, he was mentioning, and it's real easy to just kind of punch down at AAU, right? Like, this AAU culture, too many games, not enough practice. But I was curious, now that there's multiple paths into the league, and we kind of sit here in the NBA. I think it's as popular as it's ever been, especially when you look at it worldwide.
Yep.
But the criticism that he brought up was that American-born players are essentially playing too many games as kids. That the European players, they play one game a week, and then they practice the rest of the week. And that the American-born players, because of AAU, because the travel team kind of culture is get as many games as possible. Games equal potential eyeballs on potential coaches and potential GMs, and that's more and more opportunity, but they're not learning a team brand of basketball.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts because I still believe, yes, the top of the league, when you look at where Giannis and Jokic and those guys are, but still the bulk of the league is still American-born players.
For sure.
Like most rosters and most of the All-Stars are still American-born players. But I'm curious if you look maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road, do we need to maybe change up the basketball culture?
Here's what I think about that. I don't think it's so much changing up the basketball culture as it is for me not burning guys out playing the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way that I sort of look at it. And what I mean by that is the basketball culture can stay the same. Play all the games you want to play. But I am not the biggest fan of, like, the year-round element of guys playing basketball in regards to, like, you're playing 12 months out of the year and you're hooping. Obviously, I like the fact that there's year-round basketball. You got an NBA season, you got a summer league. But most of the guys that are playing in the summer league aren't logging very significant minutes in the NBA and vice versa. But I like more so the element of the multi-sport athlete. Guys being able to play several sports, learn different elements of each sport, become coordinated in different ways. And then once you kind of get later on down the road and you decide to pick your sport and say that sport is basketball, then you kind of just stick to it in like your high school years, if you will. But I think earlier on, there can be burnout for youth a little bit, just playing basketball 12 months out of the year. That's what I'm not particularly the biggest fan of. But I do like the accessibility of having basketball and that basketball culture as much as we have here in America.
You know what's interesting? And I just kind of thought of this. In football, whether it's NFL or college football, somebody does something successful, everybody copies it.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it was Oregon running the fast-paced offense, it's like, that's some success. Let's copy it. Or, teams in the NFL, the tush push, right? Going on with Philadelphia. We got to try that. You do something, you have success, everybody tries to copy it.
Copycat league.
It is a copycat. I don't know if we have a copycat league in the NBA because if you look at, and it's kind of going back to what Doc Rivers was saying, you look at the past NBA champions, whether it was the Nuggets, whether it was the Warriors before that, whether it was the Bucks before that. Bubble doesn't count. Sorry, Lakers. Doesn't count. And then you go before that.
I'm just glad we had basketball at the time.
We needed it at the time. Yeah. Tired of watching Tiger King.
Yeah.
Was pumped to watch actual basketball, but wasn't real championship. Doesn't count for LeBron. But before that, had the Warriors dynasty. And all of those teams, the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Bucks, and then obviously the Warriors dynasty before that, they all moved the ball.
Yeah.
Moved without the ball, passed the ball, created shots offensively, unselfish, great team basketball. But it doesn't seem like teams are trying to copy that.
Now, that's what I think the beauty is of the game becoming so global and international, is that there are, how they say in boxing, styles make fights.
Yes.
And I think when you have the game of basketball going as global and becoming as widespread as it is, and you do have these different, like, subcultures of the game, whether it be American-born culture and the culture of basketball in America in comparison to the culture of basketball in Europe, in comparison to the culture of basketball in Asia, so on and so forth. I do think that there's an element to that sort of diversifies the game and allows it to advance in different ways. It makes it harder for it to become a copycat league because, guys, the game is evolutionizing in a different way than football, where it's American football. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an American thing. Everybody in America is all into football, and that's just what it is. So it's a little bit easier for it to become a copycat league. But since the NBA has gone global, I do believe that the evolution of the sport makes it to where it's a little harder for it to be a copycat league, which to me is the best case scenario, honestly, is to be able to just have these different styles, to make these different fights, and to now create different, elements to each of these eras of basketball that will only continue to evolve in different ways because the subcultures are so different, but it's still one game.
It's fast because there was a bit of a copycat because we've talked about this before. Steph Curry changed the game.
Yeah.
He changed the game of basketball.
Absolutely.
In the same way that LeBron kind of changed the game in moving around, the same way that Jordan changed the game with the restricted area, right? Restricted area is there because of Michael Jordan.
For sure.
That's why it exists. Kobe changed the game. Steph Curry changed the game because obviously he was like, yeah, math. 3's more than 2.
Yep.
I'm going to shoot more of these. Don't be afraid. The math will even itself out. But the reason that he was able to shoot, one, he's a tremendous shooter, maybe the greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah.
Not even a maybe.
He is. Absolutely.
But also the rest of his team was able to kind of go along with that because they moved the ball.
Yeah.
And the reason that Jokic is so valuable as a center is because he doesn't need to necessarily get his every night. He will move the ball and pass the ball.
Ball doesn't stick.
And you even go back to the Spurs before that where they would move the ball around. I'm surprised that hasn't caught on more in the NBA. Or maybe that's just me being a grumpy old man. And maybe they pass it more than I think. But those teams are better at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to is those teams are better at it. And then just, again, when I was talking about earlier, it's a lot more situational, I think, where finding the right situations to have players' gifts that are compatible with each other playing on the same teams together, which is hard to do when you start to consider the business side of it, when you start to consider the players' league and this sort of egotistical side of it and what it is that guys think should be their situation in terms of what's best for them rather than what's best for the unit and the team at large. I mean, you look at situations maybe like a James Harden, if you want to throw an example out there, not to knock him in that kind of a way, but it's like what I'm more so speaking to is players have more influence to be able to kind of move themselves around. And sometimes that's not always best for them individually, and it's not always best for their teams that they're playing for at large. And so just kind of being in that type of a league today, I think, though, it's the other elements that make it to where you have to kind of navigate the league in a unique way to be able to find the situation that fits you best. And I think teams like the Nuggets, teams like the Warriors, teams like the Spurs of the past were teams that were just able to figure it out, even amongst all of the other elements that you have to kind of figure it out within. So I think it's more so it's a situationship league.
Yeah. Well, and like more than just James Harden, I always think about like this is not a criticism, this is an observation, but I think about Jeremy Grant. Right?
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant knows that if I go out and I score 21 points a night and I grab 8 rebounds a night, guess what? I'm making $20-some million.
That's the business
and that's
side
all I got to do.
That's the business element.
I show up, regardless of anything else, if I put in 19 to 20 points a night and I grab 8 rebounds a night and I stay healthy.
Yeah.
$28 million.
It's the business.
A year.
And
they're going to keep doing that
for.
as long as I keep doing that. And so, yeah, there's the guys.
There's so much to account for.
There's the guys at the bottom that are kind of grinding. Just keep me on the roster.
Yeah.
There are the superstars at top who like have made more money than they can count. But it's those guys in the middle that, again, this is not me criticizing. I get it. Like,
yeah.
If I stay healthy and I just stay out of foul trouble and I drop in 21 and 8 a night, 15 years from now, I'm going to be really set.
I do truly believe that the business of basketball has an impact on the purity of basketball, which I think ball movement, as you were speaking to, more so speak to the purity and the poetic element of the game of basketball. But there's a business side that holds nearly as much influence as the purity of the game holds influence to being able to ultimately be successful and win games. And so, yeah, like I said, it's the outside elements that make it to where it's a little bit harder to find the right situation if you're an individual and ultimately if you're a GM trying to put together a team and have the right situation there as well.
That's why nobody takes half-court shots anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not messing up my shooting percentage.
Yeah, we'll just hold it out.
38% from three versus 35.5 because I shot 4 half-court shots at the end of a quarter.
Nope.
No, thank you. All right, coming up next, we got the RCM mailbag. We got to talk some Thanksgiving as well, and we get to play maybe one of our favorite games, which is regional cultural with regards to the Thanksgiving dinner that your family and my family are going to have. And also, Brendan's going to get in on the action as well. We wrap up the big show next, 620 Rip City Radio. questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits. Pounce is joining us once again for the Mailbag Live in studio. Super producer Brendan, it is time to fire it up.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
All right, fellas, it's going to be a Thanksgiving-themed mailbag today. I teased you guys with one question, but we're actually going to start with another. We'll get to that question,
Okay.
So stay tuned. But we first got to start on something that I stumbled onto during the break. How America itself is divided on cranberries at Thanksgiving. And I would like to ask you guys, do you care if it's cranberry sauce versus fresh cranberries? Because the people in this particular state care a lot.
Yeah, it's a big deal here. I don't want any cranberries on my plate at all.
No.
Any way, shape, or form whatsoever.
I hardly want cranberry sauce. I like cranberry sauce for decor. You know,
Okay,
when you have to take the picture of all the dishes on the table
Yeah.
before you even begin
For the
to
gram.
eat. For the gram is what I like cranberry sauce for. As far as like needing it on my plate to consume, I can do without.
I'm out on cranberry sauce, whether it's out of the can, whether it is homemade, whether it is just
Same.
some cranberries sprinkled on, like you said, for decor. I don't need them, don't want them. There's plenty of good things for cranberries. Thanksgiving is not one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know how cranberries got onto our plates.
I don't either.
Or how it creeped in. Everything else on Thanksgiving is fantastic. That's the only thing I do know. And yes, I know your Aunt Mabel's cranberry sauce recipe I haven't tried, but it's not good. I don't like it. I don't want it.
Yeah, I can do without. It's good for the gram though. When you have that feast picture that
Little
you got
pop
to
of
post,
color, yeah.
that's all it's good for. But as
So-
far as consuming it, it can stay right
Interestingly
where
enough-
how it was in the picture.
Interestingly enough, fellas, the question this came from, the state of Oregon is 30% more likely to demand fresh cranberries
Well, because we got them.
Yeah.
Right? You go
rather
out-
than sauce,
You got to like the Oregon coast, like they've got like the cranberry bogs out there.
Right.
which is fourth in the country, Justin, only behind Iowa, South Dakota, and Nebraska.
They're all landlocked states.
So
What are they
something
doing with
about
cranberries?
Oregon, I'm just saying. All right, let's
You
go
those
ahead.
sound like some cranberry states for sure.
Let's go ahead and move right along here on the
Nebraska,
mailbag.
Oregon.
All right, fellas, the enough beating around the bush.
Yes.
The question we all want to know the answer to, and I teased you guys with over the break. What is the worst, just anything, you've seen food-wise on a Thanksgiving Day table? Now, this is not something that you make and you're like, well, I make it for the people to come over. This can be, from when you were 8 and went to
Yeah.
grandma's house. You're like, oh, man, I still remember when grandma made it that one time. But what is something that you just are like, I'm out, don't put it on the table, it's gross?
Now, this is part of this is fascinating to me because one of the things that I have always appreciated about my friendship with Devon here is
Yes.
that he will allow me to ask questions that may seem insensitive, but knowing that we are friends
For
and
sure.
knowing that it comes from a place of love. And when we were doing our show and we were talking about Thanksgiving, and I learned that Black Thanksgiving is different.
It absolutely is.
And it sounds like it's more fun. To be perfectly honest, sounds like it's way more fun.
For sure.
But the side dishes are different. My traditional Thanksgiving growing up: mashed potatoes and gravy, stuffing, rolls, green bean casserole.
Yes. For me, no green bean casserole. Definitely got to have mac and cheese. I mean, if you got to choose between mac and cheese and mashed potatoes, and I'm just talking about standalone,
Yes.
not even a part of a Thanksgiving feast, but like if I can have the option standalone of having macaroni and cheese and having mashed potatoes, I'm going macaroni and cheese. You're already going to get your potato fix with the sweet potatoes anyway with the yams. You get a good batch of yams, you get your potato fix, and you get mac and cheese. Why would I not pick that over mashed potatoes 10 times out of 10? And again, no green bean casserole for me. Green bean, string bean, whatever bean. None of that in a casserole for me.
I'm a big fan of green bean casserole, but I see where you're coming from. We will be having mac and cheese at my family's Thanksgiving this year. I don't think that's cultural appropriation. I think that's just.
It's just better.
It's just better. But getting back to the original question, because
Yes.
I want to duck the original question. When I was in 7th grade, my grandma went to live in a retirement community, and and she was by herself, and so it's like we were like we're going to spend Thanksgiving with Grandma, and went to the Thanksgiving dinner that they put out in this retirement place, and everybody kind of got served the same. There was this lime jello thing, and it was awful.
Yeah,
it was terrible. I don't know to this day what it was. And my mom, thank gosh, she was like, "You don't have to eat that. Don't worry about it. Nobody's gonna get their feelings hurt." But I would say that was it at Grandma's retirement community. When I was in 7th grade, this lime jello with like a froth on top, and it was like, I don't know what they were thinking.
So there's one example in history, Justin, where you were told you didn't have to eat something.
Yeah.
Because that was my MO. Was like, oh, you don't like it? Oh, it's all good. We'll figure something out.
That was not my childhood. My childhood was you were going to eat this, but the lime jello frothy thing, even my mom looked at it and was like, no, we're not eating that.
Keep this in mind, Justin, as I give you my answer. Everything that I've grown up with. So I'm out on all types of casserole, whether it's green bean, sweet potato. Give me another type of casserole, fellas. But yes, I'm out on casserole. And perhaps the one that I remember most from a kid that I'm just like, I don't understand. I'm out on yams. Any sort of yams.
I love yams, but not the ones with the raisins in it.
No.
Oh
With the
my
what?
gosh!
The what?
You talk about the nastiest thing I've ever seen on a Thanksgiving table.
Really?
While we're at it, get the raisins out of the stuffing.
Out of everything.
Keep 'em
Get
out of
the
the
raisins out of Thanksgiving. For crying out loud. Keep it out of the feast.
Raisins and the cranberries can just stay in the pantry. We don't need them. By the way, if you're going to throw them in a dessert, keep them out of that as well. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to